All right.
Hello.
What's up, fellas?
Hello. I hope everybody's doing well in your endeavors.
In your endeavors. Speaking of endeavors, here's ours.
I'm sorry.
Yes. Oh.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I love that show.
Yes. So Detroiters and I'm sorry are my favorite.
What a great cold open we just had there.
Yeah. Just talking about great comedies that are currently on TV.
We're talking about TV.
People just don't like.
But we're talking about it on a movie.
People just don't talk
We're talking about
podcast
just in case anyone's thoroughly confused by what they're hearing right now.
Sorry.
You guys were talking about Detroiters, and then the other sitcom,
Trial and Error,
and you were trying to think of
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm Sorry is in production of their second season right now.
Yes.
And Tom Everett Scott, and I got like something playing on Twitter.
Yeah. It sounds like you have like an episode of Flintstones playing.
I was trying to find out who the actor was on I'm Sorry because I follow her on Twitter and she's quite the follow. She's really fun. But yeah, anyway, we were talking about sitcoms.
Sitcoms
rolling
that
the
people should
episode
be
of
watching.
Movie Schmovie, and this is what happens. Ronald's trying to remember that last one. Finds it. I'm sorry. We're also sorry for starting this on a TV note, but we like TV too.
I'll bring it into more of a movie zone and say we're sorry to bother you.
I like that. You reeled it in.
How about we do something we've never really done that I think professionals would do, which is let's just reset. Let's reset our energy.
Okay.
Maybe all of the stuff that people have heard thus far is before the theme song. And we're about to roll into the theme song. And when we come out of the theme song, we'll be a bunch of pros who say our names and the show we're on, and we get on topic. What do you think about that?
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
It works for people, though.
Yeah.
It does,
I've heard it works.
It really does. It gives a nice place to just sort of cut it.
How's everybody doing?
Not bad.
Good.
Who are we?
What I was about to say.
That's deep. That's deep, man.
I haven't done that before. Do you notice that? I haven't.
Better question. Why are we?
Because we love what we do.
Yes.
Well, and what do we do?
It's been a while.
I'm John, and I podcast with my friends about movies.
I'm Ronald, and I podcast with my friends about movies and occasionally TV shows and random other stuff.
Yes.
I'm Steve, and I also podcast with my friends about movies and eat my other friends who bring muscles to this recording session.
And when we put our 3 power rings together, we become Movie Schmovie.
Let our powers combine.
With our powers combined.
If you had like an element that you controlled, or a like a mystical energy that you were paired with, what would it be?
Shout out to Kwame from Captain Planet. I'd be Earth.
You'd be Earth.
Earth.
I would just...
we're trying to complete this thing. I'll go with the water, I guess.
Is frustration an element?
We can make it be.
It's really easy to be frustrated in these days and
I
times.
believe in the power of frustration at any rate.
Oh, yeah.
It moves people.
Oh, yeah. It's a cool tool.
Yes,
if
it
you
is.
use it right.
Cool tool.
Cool tools.
Cool tool.
Why did everybody talk like that?
Cool tool.
In cartoons back then. You're
Back
a
when?
fool. Like in the 90s? Like every kid.
Well, there was at
that
least
didn't
one
like other
character
kids.
on every show that was like, "Hey guys, what's going on?"
I think that was Roger and Doug.
You want to score some jobs? Hey, Doug. You're a dummy. Man, I love that dude, man.
Doug or Roger?
Roger. Because he was such a bully, man. He was so funny to me. And he wore a leather jacket in middle school? Was that middle school?
I don't know, maybe. I think so.
It's too fucking cool, man.
It was also the 90s.
Yeah.
People were super cool back then.
Did you see that Macklemore comparison to Roger?
Oh, yeah.
He looks just like him. So random.
I didn't even know the show, but I know the drawing. And it's very good.
So good. So close to what he looks like. Anyway.
So, yeah, guys.
I think when you get to Macklemore, that's when some alarm goes off that you should find a topic. It's like we've gone astray. But yeah, this is our attempt at kind of catching up. If you can't tell from listening to this, we're a little punchy. It's been a while since we've gotten together. Yeah. Summer has kind of taken us off in different directions, but I did notice looking at the feed, we have had 2 episodes a month at least, every month so far this year. So it's not so bad. Not so bad. And maybe we'll catch up at some point and get some bonuses in there for you folks. But at the very least, we're catching you after, what was it, Steve? I was out of town, then you were out of town.
Yeah.
And we just...
Now I'm going to be
and
out.
Now Ronald's going out, next week.
But We are here tonight, and we have a few topics that have kind of come up while we were away that we thought would be fun to cover. Mm-hmm. But there's another new bit of news that just came up mentioning that Henry Cavill is leaving the DCEU and is leaving the role of Superman, and it's kind of like...
I love so much that this is in our episode. Did you read that link?
Did you read it?
Oh, was it a shit link?
It was a Rickroll.
Oh, okay. I didn't.
Oh, God.
I just saw the headline.
No, it's a legit Rickroll.
It's a deep, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. And the crazy thing was, like, it was on a couple sites.
I had a feeling that you didn't read it because you're like, I saw this coming. Yeah. But you wrote, it's been a while. Like, okay, he clicked the link. Right. He didn't click it.
God, man.
Yeah, he's still in the DCEU.
All right, well, scratch that.
No, but this is good stuff.
Yeah.
It was a really high quality Rickroll.
Well,
it got me hard.
It did too, because like it had
it got me really hot. Like I didn't get hard. Like it just got me. It got me good.
Because it had the picture, it had the font. I was like, okay, this looks legit, and it was on multiple sites. So I was like, I'm ready. Never gonna get.
Yep. So that's that.
Well, what's great about that is it did make perfect sense. It did seem like what was going to happen.
The timing was perfect.
Yeah,
because he's on like a high after the whole Mission Impossible Fallout.
Yes.
It's like this is what good tastes like. And it's like, now maybe is the time to get out.
The picture was even a picture of him with the mustache, which just underscores how important of a move it would be for him to step away. I told Henry, and we spent like...
Oh, no.
It wasn't like we were sad, but I mean, just over dinner, we discussed like, that's a bummer that he didn't get to do a good, fun Superman movie. Mm-hmm. Because that was the one thing I thought after seeing Mission Impossible was, okay, Henry Cavill, if anyone saw this in the industry, surely they're thinking like, why doesn't this guy have like... a beloved action movie of his own, and I started thinking, there's talk of Matthew Vaughn or somebody like that coming on to direct.
Yeah. Wow,
or was that a Rickroll too? I don't read articles.
I didn't see that one.
I just read.
You just read headlines. You're burned by clickbait. You just read the headline.
You have to understand that when you send me a link and it says check this out or whatever, and then you were like, it's been a while. It didn't click with me what you were saying, but you have to understand that that headline was very descriptive.
It was.
Like, he's left the DCEU and Man of Steel 2 is canceled. Like, what more did I need to know?
I was the same way. I was like, okay, this is it. I mean, I was kind of sad about it because I thought that he's a really good Superman. To me, I mean, like the movie sucks.
He's a good Superman. He just hasn't gotten to be in.
Right? Are they going to Ragnarok it? You think if they Ragnarok it, would you be willing to watch?
I love that's an adjective right now.
Yeah, I'm trying to make it work.
Are they going to Ragnarok it?
Because you can. I mean, it is the first.
I think they're going to have a Ragnarok and good time with it.
I think so too. It's the first shift. It's the first time I've ever seen a comic book movie be shifted the way that it is.
The whole tone.
I think we should just make that a thing here, man. Because can they lighten it up and make this Superman?
I mean, everybody wants him to. We've said this several times before too. But meanwhile, Marvel is doing something with Captain America that's very close to what DC could be doing with Superman.
Yeah. Totally. So not so much news.
So
it's a good talking point.
So I hope that you guys know I'm never going to give this up.
I appreciate that.
I'm never going to let you guys down. Is clicking on the Rickroll more falling for it, or buying the headline and not clicking on it? Which one?
I don't know who won that.
Who's the bigger fool?
Yeah,
I think there's something about the way
Who is the bigger fool? He who clicketh, or he who scrolleth?
Man,
what if? It's just really funny to think about, like, if the internet existed back in the day.
I did hear someone
posteth a lie.
I did hear someone who did not understand Rickrolling have it happen.
Yeah,
and it was a total misfire for them.
Yeah, it's just like, what?
They were like, "Wait, what is this? Oh, it was a thing people did, but what is the thing?"
Yeah,
and it just was like, it's one of those things where once you've explained it, you're like, "Well, we've ruined it."
You just clicked the wrong link.
Yeah, it's like
you just sucked all the air out of Rickrolling.
Yeah,
but
it's. To me, when I first saw it, it was the shock of how I forgot. I knew that song. Mm-hmm. Did not know he was a white dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
I thought when I think about Rickrolling, I think about Get Out of My Dreams, Get Into My Car. Billy Ocean. They have like a kind of that lane of that type of music, like
sticking with the car.
Some good electronic stuff. Some people play
you got your keyboard
jazz fingers.
It's either a low bench or a high
it's
piano.
It's a person that has multiple keyboards.
Yeah.
It's like
get the decks.
Oh yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
So movies.
Yeah.
Oh, movies.
Well, moving on to some other stuff that I wish was fake news, but that is not fake news. But we've completely missed this. It's 2 weeks old now, but I feel like as much as we've talked about the Guardians of the Galaxy films on this podcast, and as much as we've sort of mentioned James Gunn's participation in those movies as something that we kind of valued and looked at as kind of a linchpin of what we like about what Marvel's doing. If we're talking about Ragnaroking things, that's really like Guardiansing things, because Ragnarok kind of drafted on the possibilities as laid out by that. So James Gunn was fired by Disney for, if we just look at it in the simplest way of saying it, he was fired for past offensive tweets.
Yeah.
That
quite a few, not just a couple.
Oh, 15 or 20.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's a lot, but it's when you compare it to how much he tweeted and the kind of humor that he was tweeting. Right. I have absolutely no support in my heart whatsoever for the humor. I don't find that type of joke funny.
Yeah.
I don't like it when someone sitting next to me at a party is trying to be the most shocking person in the world.
Yeah.
But I have been around that kind of comedy, and also I've been a young man, and I've indulged in that level of like, are we being funniest when we're most offensive? So not to defend it at all, but just to say that I do think those were jokes, like really bad jokes. That James Gunn has, a lot of people say he's already apologized for them, but really he's apologized for another thing he wrote, which was like a blog post about comic book characters he wanted to have sex with, and that was really offensive and homophobic, and he's apologized directly for that. Right. The tweets he didn't really apologize for so much as he just said, I used to be this type of person and I've changed.
Right.
But he didn't delete them, and they were still up there for these, what I consider to be right-wing trolls, to seize upon and thrust at Disney and say, Disney, how can you have someone like this working for you?
Right.
So it's like the debate over whether the tweets are appropriate or whether Disney should be working with someone who makes tweets like that, to me, is a side debate to the fact that an alt-right troll was able to disingenuously pretend they were offended, pretend that they cared about kids or that they were offended by pedophilia jokes. And it's snowballed into this crazy undercurrent on Twitter of right-wingers who act like everyone in Hollywood is a pedophile.
Yeah.
Or that if you defend James Gunn, then you are a pedophile.
Right.
It's like there's this weird chain of causation and rumor. And Mike Cernovich, I never know how to say that guy's name. Who cares? He's loathsome. I don't know if you guys know some of the tweets he's posted. He's actually tweeted that date rape doesn't exist,
right?
And saying that it's impossible to rape someone, because have you ever tried to force yourself on someone? That's impossible. It's like
I've
he's
heard
tweeted loathsome, horrible things that are legitimately horrible, and he's actually been accused of rape. So here we have a guy who is probably a rapist accusing a guy who made jokes of being what his jokes painted him to be. It's a clusterfuck, and it's the way it lays into that culture war that we've been talking about before on the show. It's like this is like toxic fandom, but taken into that political realm.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know what you guys think at this point. Now that we've had time for the dust to settle, do you think that? I mean, at this point, he's not getting rehired, right? Like Disney has nothing.
They said that they weren't going to rehire him pretty recently. My issue is a little beyond just offensiveness, and some of it has to do with the umbrella of what Disney is, right? So Disney now has for a really long time, through whatever means, funded things that were above a PG-13 rating. I mean, I don't know. You do some research, it leads back to all sorts of productions that they've funded in some way.
Well, they had Touchstone was flat out. That was their R-rated movie arm that they had for a long time.
One of the things that is really starting to get on my nerves, just as companies are being vetted in that way, is the idea that like James Gunn's production, everything that he's done is a result of who he is as a person. Not to say he's not a bad person. I can't say what kind of person he is, but they knew his history. And to have a shit ton of history that you can see on IMDb. I'm just talking about things that he's been involved in, and he's decided they've decided for his creative eye, that they'd hire him for this thing. For them to collapse on that when it goes down is very dismissive of why they hired him to do the thing, because that is the thing that makes this a good movie. The same realm of the trauma, all that stuff that he's done in the past is the same reason why Guardians is a good thing. It's that eye for cheeky humor, for the kind of, and he's made this cool dance of like going in and out of it in Guardians. Mm-hmm. But the thing that exists, I don't think that what he said, the act of posting something like that is really bad.
If normally in the news that he's not coming back to direct the third movie in the series, it wouldn't have been this big story. You know, if they just announced James Gunn won't be directing the third movie, or we don't know who's directing the third one, it would be weird, but it wouldn't be the most shocking news in the world. It's the way he was fired. I really do believe him when he says, and his brother Sean Gunn wrote a piece, public letter, sort of an open letter about this, that the story of the Guardians movies and of these characters kind of overcoming their worst tendencies and becoming appreciative of family and unity and community as opposed to being off in their own zone, that is the story of what James Gunn was going through when he was working on this, and that he grew as a person from making those movies. And I think you can actually feel that in those movies. That whatever we are talking about that's got that soul, it's not just that he picked the right songs or that he knows how to write these quips. It's that there is this weird soul in those movies that comes from a guy who was being very sincere about this idea of being kind of shitty and bettering yourself.
Right.
So it seems sad to me that he doesn't get to complete that, and it does seem like whoever takes the reins, it could be someone really exciting. It could be someone who's really lucky to get that shot. I don't know what I think about the future of that, but I do know that we'll never know what the plan was now. Yeah. And that bums me out because I feel like there was something with some real substance that James Gunn was cooking up there.
Yeah. And okay, so here's the last thing I'll say too. So I think that I love, seriously, I really love that there's a level of accountability that we're holding people for. Like, you know, people saying inappropriate things, doing inappropriate things people should be held accountable. One thing that I pray for, when I say I pray, seriously, man, I hope that there's a time when we can differentiate degrees of this sort of act, right? Where we can say, like, this is first degree, this is second degree, this is third degree, because we're lumping everything in the same category sometimes, and people having that label can be damning for the rest of their lives. So I'll say this. As a person who creates comedy, and it's starting out, I had a level. I mean, even if you go back and listen to how I used to speak a couple years ago on this podcast, there has been some consideration for the people that are listening.
Yeah, I think we've grown. I think about that all the time. Think about who's listening. Think about who might feel excluded by some language you use or something you say that might just be a joke. And joking is, I don't want to say that we shouldn't joke, but there is that thought of like, well, wait, what do you gain by that joke versus what you lose by that joke? Yeah. And if somebody turns off because you made a certain joke, well, that's your loss, really. But you're also, I don't know, it's a touchy thing, but I know what you mean. The standards are changing all the time, and you have to keep up with it.
Yeah, and to act like we collectively aren't a part of that process is ignoring the spectrum of growth.
Yeah.
I don't know. Steve, what do you think, man? I feel like I
feel like there's specifically James Gunn, but also the general idea that it's a positive thing, right? That people are being held accountable, but this feels different. This feels,
I don't know. I don't know. I don't disagree with anything that you guys have said. I feel like it's a bit. I feel like it's excessive. I feel like it's far too pointed of an attack to go after him for something that he said, and it was like, I think, didn't it start out with him criticizing something that Mark Duplass said about, was it Ben Shapiro? Like,
it was a tangled web, but
it was weird. Whatever
James Gunn did, he tripped over these trolls.
Yes, and that's kind of what triggered all this. And I feel like, you're talking about, saying 15 or 20 tweets, and you're talking about a platform where somebody who's active like him, like there's hundreds of tweets.
Yeah.
Have you seen that number, 10,000 tweets? Like, he deleted 10,000 tweets. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are now publicizing, I just deleted 20,000 tweets,
Right.
James Gunn deleted 10,000 tweets. I've seen people take that number and say he deleted 10,000 tweets about pedophilia. Like, that's what they're saying on those. Again, I agree with you, Ronald, that 20 pedophilia jokes is pretty weird.
It's terrible.
It's similar to guys who always make jokes about sexual stuff. It's like there's something going on there if that's always the topic you go to.
Yeah.
Or if you don't notice the tone of the room, or if you don't. So I do think it's embarrassing. And I do think he's right to be apologetic and everything else.
I think so too.
I think he's handled it pretty well. I'm surprised he didn't delete them sooner.
I know.
But
because
anyway.
apparently that wasn't the first time that somebody brought it up. Like, there are articles or people have seen dated way before all this stuff got.
Well, a lot of very progressive people are saying, "I don't care. It's a white man who has marginalized community." Like a lot of people don't like the fact that he cast a woman of color and painted her green. A lot of people don't like that he cast an Asian woman as a character that's sort of like a lovable dunce, you know. And it's not just people on the right that are ready to say, "Well, I'm done with James Gunn." But I think there's a difference between the people who are legit offended by those jokes and the people who got him fired. I don't think the people who got him fired are actually offended.
No. Not even close.
Yeah.
Not the same people.
It's a weird time to say, let's all mobilize to get this middle-aged white guy his job back.
Right.
But at the same time, it's James Gunn, and it's a series that he's responsible for making it great.
I think it's excessive. I don't get it. I mean, I understand the sensitivity and whether or not they're appropriate or not. I mean, I would not argue that they are appropriate. I mean, I think they're inappropriate. I don't find them funny personally.
Yeah.
But again, this is comedy. Tons of comedians say things that are super offensive, and people find lots of humor in them. At the same time, people were reading those tweets. I'm sure some people were laughing at them.
Yeah.
Maybe not the audience of the person who trolled him and went after him, and maybe not the audience of most of America or most of the world even. But you know, it's a shocking level of attempt at comedy that, like, you know, he was obviously going for at that time. But I don't necessarily think that, like, you know, those words and those attempts at being funny are on the same level of like actions that people do that go unchecked, or when they're checked, people have a conniption about. Like, those kinds of things to me are a whole, when you're talking about degrees, there's a whole different level of something that actually happens, or somebody's doing something that displays what kind of person they are versus somebody who's trying to be funny or shocking, or whatever it might be.
What I kept hearing people point out was the people were comparing it to the Roseanne thing, and I heard someone say it really cleanly, that a racist joke is racism. A joke about pedophilia is not pedophilia.
Right.
It's like you can question why someone would think that was such a go-to thing. I actually saw where somebody went through and found the individual jokes and actually said, I'm not defending these jokes, but they went through and wrote out said the context was he was responding to this, or this was a reference to a news story that day, or what, like that. It wasn't like he just sat down and wanted
to say that.
It's like he was busting somebody's balls who had already written something offensive about him, and this is. But with all that said, it's still it's not hard to believe that Disney would say, we can't work with someone who tweets things like this. What's weird is that they hired him and made a couple billion off of him before they decided to fire him for it.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's why it's fucked up, in my opinion. I mean, my simple reaction is I don't think it's right. I don't think it's fair. And I mean, I know that the cast has kind of come out in support of him, especially like Dave Bautista has been very vocal about it. And I think I saw an article today that said that they were trying to maybe wanting to still use his script that he had just turned in. I don't know if that's so that like they don't lose their cast too. I mean, because Dave Bautista flat out said, like, if this script is not used, I'm going to find a way out of this movie.
Oh wow!
And I mean, he's like, you know,
I saw where
he's
he said,
a guardian.
I'll do what I'm legally obligated to do, but he said it's nauseating.
And that was the day before. What I'm referring to. He made a comment directly about the script yesterday.
Okay,
meaning Tuesday. And today,
saying I'll be nauseated to work for Disney for doing this is pretty strong. So, and it's funny that he's the one who's the most outspoken. But in a way, don't you think Dave Bautista now has a legit movie career?
Yes,
because of James Gunn.
Absolutely.
And aren't you glad he does? I think he's a great actor. I think he's been great in everything I've seen him in.
Some would even say better than The Rock's in terms of quality. Man, I'm not talking about money. Quality. He was a Bond villain. Come on, man. What this? I've had
go beyond Bautista. I mean, you look at this movie series. I mean, you look at the star. Chris Pratt is a star. Because of Star-Lord. Like that's you know. So I mean, I think it's important that, you know, the loyalty of, like, you know, your cast. And I mean, I think it's really important that they kind of came together and released that statement. And, you know, it's very manufactured, and it's very, like, you know,
it's very safe,
as neutral as possible. But it's very
it's
clearly
like out
saying,
on the middle of a limb. It's not quite on the end of a limb.
And Dave Bautista is like off.
Yeah, no, he's
he's straight out like, this is wrong. And I agree. Like, I don't understand. I mean, there's tons of stuff out there if you do some research, like, you know, examples of, like, you know, filmmakers, actors that Disney has continued to work with or continued to employ that have, again, done things.
Yes.
Way more questionable.
Disney himself
than a joke.
has some skeletons in the closet.
Oh, beyond Disney. I'm talking in the last 10 years, like, relevant, recent movies, actors, you know, that have a history of stuff that
Plus, the cultural narrative that they push through most of their movies is a story of redemption.
Yeah.
And
sure.
You know, I mean, that may sound pretty highfalutin to say that, but it's like, okay, you're not even. There's not. What is the value there? If it's not just that there's some right wingers in the shareholder group that want to say we're not just gonna punish Roseanne's of the world. We're gonna punish the James Gunns of the world. We're gonna show that we're not.
Yeah.
We're not progressive. We're going to show that we're not liberal, or we're going to, I don't know, do it to own the libtards or whatever they're thinking. But I feel like it's deep in the company, and I hate to. It's politicized. This whole thing is politicized. So I don't feel too. I was going to say I hate to politicize it, but I'm just reacting to the political content that's already there.
I just heard somebody just to paint a picture of how weird this stuff is. A person that was talking about how terrible James Gunn was, and then called a person fat like within an hour of. I'm just saying, like, we all have things that we need to watch as people that we need to work on.
Do you see where Bobcat Goldthwait wrote that letter saying, please remove my voice from Hercules and the ride based on the movie because I made some pretty terrible jokes back in the day.
Wow.
But he's also really tight with James Gunn. Like, he's been all over social media saying this is heartbreaking.
I like his show, by the way. I don't know if you've checked it out.
I just like Bobcat.
It's a weird-ass show, but it's really good. It's like monsters.
I saw a clip of him from one of the Police Academy movies recently, and I just love that. I love that. I love him. You know what I mean? Like at the time, it was just like he's this nut.
I always think of him from One Crazy Summer.
Yeah,
with John Cusack.
But his show on WeTV is pretty funny, man.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's an unfortunate situation. It's just shitty.
The scrambling that must be happening over there at Marvel, and I really kind of want to know what the Kevin Feige people at that level, what they're involved in, or what they think about this.
Can I say something about Kevin Feige? I don't want to see him. He's like Mark Cuban.
You don't like his hats?
No, it's just, why is this guy talking about the movies? Why is it that every documentary I see about the MCU,
the architect, man.
Yeah,
he's like, that's why. I mean, it's legitimate though.
In this phase of Marvel, you see what's happening. You've watched it for a decade.
But I buy that though.
Yeah, he's the auteur.
Get the fuck out of here, man.
Dude, who do you?
I don't mean you get the fuck out of here.
No, I know you didn't mean me.
him get the fuck out.
Nah, man.
Come on.
I gotta disagree with you.
I don't like.
I totally respect
Andy
him.
Cohen is the only guy in charge of stuff that I want to see at the front.
Why? Just because he's like this massive personality?
Amazing. He's fucking amazing.
I don't feel like Kevin Feige does Andy Cohen level.
Yeah,
he does, man. I've been watching. So I watched it.
Were you watching it in like fast forward?
I watched
two times speed or something.
It's like an hour long Infinity War. Like documentary,
and you're like, I was watching a bunch of behind the scenes MCU videos, and he kept popping up. Asshole.
He's like
the guy who's produced every one of these movies.
Why?
Probably. Because he's the guy.
He's the guy that
the
like
actors need I don't want to see the goddamn. I want to see the director. I want to see the actors.
They are spinning a story more so than like giving you a look behind the curtain. He's the face that they present when they want someone to just hype people up. Though
I guess, man. I don't mind him at Comic-Cons.
Yeah.
But there's something about seeing him in all of these things. I'm like,
all these things you keep watching.
No, because I really want to see the behind the scenes. I really want to see the behind the scenes of like, especially since
there's one person that knows everything that's going to happen in the MCU, and it's him.
Yeah.
So if there's going to be one person that would be consistent through everything in the MCU, it's him.
I'm not rolling with you putting him in everything though.
I don't necessarily agree with that, but I don't really see what the issue is with him.
Yeah.
I mean, like he's like a one of a kind kind of thing if you consider what he's done. The closest thing is what James Wan is doing with the Conjuring.
I'm not saying that what he's doing. I'm not talking about his accomplishments. I think that what he's done is incredible.
Yeah.
But did you see Steve Jobs just you know what? In every commercial, like, you know what's really good?
Well, he's not in every commercial. He's on the behind-the-scenes footage. And yes, I did see Steve Jobs in every single keynote presentation.
I don't mind
telling me everything about it.
Keynote is equivalent of like
Keynote is just the behind-the-scenes documentary.
Have a similar fashion sense. I feel like I can see Kevin Feige in a mock.
It's like the Comic-Con stuff is like
some
what I
jeans
think
and a black turtleneck.
It's like the keynote stuff for me.
Okay.
That's the equivalent of keynote stuff. Everything else is like, why? Why are you here? I can't, man.
We got to get him on the podcast.
I've been watching a lot of. I'm just saying. So I've been watching a lot of like
Feige Schmeige. Sounds like an episode.
Infinity War stuff. I've been trying to rationalize why I don't like this movie as much as I thought. I'm saying as much as I thought that I would.
Oh, okay.
I just think that it wasn't quite what I want. I loved what it was story wise.
It wasn't what you wanted it to be.
No. Wow. And I loved the twist.
Like a Star Wars fan.
I know. I love the twist. I love the turns. I love how it ended. I love the story. There was something about the way it was thrown together. It didn't watching it at home. It hit me a little harder. I was like, all right. all right, this was a thing. It wasn't bad though. I wouldn't say it was bad. It was just not. Watch it again. When's the last time you guys watched it? I only watched it in the movies. When's the last
I saw
time?
it twice in the movies, and I liked it.
Have you watched it at
I
home?
saw one.
Watch it at home. Watch it at home. That's all I'm saying.
Just do it.
And if you still like it, watch it on a smaller screen until
Go
you
as
don't
small
like
as
it.
I'm not gonna keep doing it. I'm not gonna be like.
Watch it through a viewfinder. A little scope.
Go around
Scope from the beach.
Go around the corner and hold up a mirror.
Now watch it on your iPhone.
Yeah.
Now watch
Oh,
it
it was
through
terrible.
the
It was jittery, and it was through a mirror.
Now watch it through a window of somebody's house.
It really bugged me how that movie was through a mirror that I was watching around the corner.
I'm gonna play it at 10 o'clock tonight. Watch it from my backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll leave a window. Open
You'll feel
for
so
you.
different about it. Kevin, I'm glad I got that off my chest about Kevin, man. I had to
believe you.
bother me, man.
What if he starts doing cameos after Stan Lee dies?
I would trade that if he's not in the documentaries.
my
I'm
God.
serious. If he just pops up and is like, "Hey, God," if he's like, because that's essentially what Stanley started to become a parody of himself after a while in those movies.
Stan Lee was a parody of himself before they ever made a movie.
That's very true.
This is true.
I mean, I love him, but he's a
Yeah.
huckster. All right, so now we know. Like, next time, I'm gonna really think hard about. Next time I see Kevin Feige in a little clip, I'm gonna think really hard about it because I've just been thinking like, oh, Kevin Feige, but I'm not thinking like,
No.
why is he here? Why do they
Why
keep
is he
wheeling
here?
him out?
What? Why? I don't get it. I don't get it, man. I don't get the like putting.
There's such a unique thing happening though with MCU is that like
There is.
they have this like really unheard of thing ever. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's so cliche to say like all these 10-year things that they've produced for it.
Yeah.
But it genuinely is like something special. And I think the reason maybe it's like seems so weird to you, like that you're seeing him so much, I think it's because, like I said before, he is the through line. And I feel like, you know, they are notorious for having enough oversight that they know what movies they're putting out and they have like this Marvel look to them and whatever.
Yeah.
But they do give filmmakers enough autonomy to go make the movie they want to make in most cases. So I think that's a consistent thing. But I think for the MCU, especially for Infinity War, that is the culmination of those 10 years. So not to defend him, but
You are.
I am. Because I feel like he needs to be defended. Because I feel like he's deserved it and he's earned it.
I'm going to give you three names of people I don't want to see anymore. Dana White of the UFC.
Okay.
That's easy for me. Don't know about
Done.
him.
Don't know
Forgotten.
Done. I'll approve
Mark
it.
Cuban, who's always
That's
someone-
proved. Sure.
Yeah.
and Kevin Feige.
I can't let him. I got to fight for Kevin.
I don't hate him, man. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like I see him too much. He's always commenting on
Always
things.
passing
He also
by him at the
tweets too. He
Chipotle.
also tweets a ton too. He's like, "Yeah, hey guys, you guys are gonna be so excited." Shut the fuck.
You know why he says that? Look how many millions of followers he has. It's weird, right?
Yeah.
He really is like the face of the MCU.
He is. It's strange, right?
It's weird. Like beyond Downey
It hit
and
me-
like Chris Evans.
Hit me like a ton of bricks. the
Feige
other
is
day.
like the guy
Yeah.
that people talk about when Marvel news comes up.
I think that's what it was.
Because he's the one that has the answer.
I watched the Comic-Con stuff that he was in,
Yeah.
and then I watched the documentary. I was like, "This is too
Yeah,
much.
he's all over. I can see that then because he's all over both of
Get
them.
out of here.
Get out of here.
Get out of here, Kevin."
All right, moving on.
All right, sorry.
What's our next topic?
I think we all saw the British horror comedy, you might call it, Ghost Stories.
Yeah, man.
What'd you guys think of Ghost Stories?
Ghost Stories hits a bunch of different genres for me. I mean, mainly horror, but you know, with elements of like humor and stuff like that. And I think that, you know, people talk a lot about how different British humor is than American humor. And there's something about the way this tackles all of the things and the interconnected stories that this has that really makes me feel like I don't feel like that about everything. I felt like that about this. This felt very distinct. This felt very like unique to the region that it was filmed in. I loved it, man. It wasn't the best thing I've ever seen, but it is one of those
You
things
don't have to say that.
I know.
You can just say I loved it.
I loved it.
I'm not going to assume it
But
was
what
the
I
best thing
what I'll
you've
say
ever
about that is like
I am.
Damn you, John.
This must be the best thing Ronald's ever seen. I'm going to call Kevin Feige.
I'm gonna say something. There are things that I've seen more. There's things that I've liked more than Ghost Stories. that I would not watch as much as I'd watch Ghost Stories.
Totally know what
I
you're
watch
saying.
Ghost Stories again.
I totally get
I'll
it.
watch it again.
Like in the 70s, I feel like there were all these British movies that were kind of anthology movies like that, based on the same comics, but not related to the later television show. But there's one called Tales from the Crypt that this movie kind of reminded me of in a way.
Gotcha.
Because it's like an anthology of different stories, but there's a connective tissue between them. And it's a way of getting into those different
Now I want to check it out.
stories. Well, I mean, I'm not even necessarily recommending that movie. It's very campy. I've heard them referred to as portmanteau films, meaning like, you know, films that are like cobbled together from different elements.
Gotcha.
But no, so I feel like it's there's a campiness to it almost.
Yeah.
That's kind of subdued under a pretty modern horror style. And I feel like there were a couple of moments that, I mean, I think we've mentioned, there's one segment in particular, it is an anthology show or an anthology movie where a character is going around to investigate these different hauntings.
Yeah.
But the first story got pretty creepy.
Yeah, the Night Watchman.
The Night Watchman, I guess.
It was filmed really well.
Yeah.
It used sound in a way that I just hadn't really seen in a while. Like, it just... It's one of those movies I watched and I was like, man, somebody's going to imitate this in a really bad way in a couple of years.
Sure.
It's just, I don't know. It has its own thing, and I love films that feel like that.
Yeah, I liked it a lot too. I thought that specific story stood out to me. I like what they did with the sound. I like the spatial relationship, like when he starts walking down the halls, investigating these sounds and all these things. Like, you know, kind of losing, like kind of thinking, you know, the path that he's taking, and then you kind of start questioning, like, where is he now? Like, is he kind of lost now? Does he know his way back now?
Right.
Like, so that's kind of good because it kind of you get thrown off and you become disoriented.
Yeah.
Because of the repetition of, like, you know, you hear the noise and you go investigate it. And each time you hear it, you go a little further to the point that I think he might not know where he's at now.
Yeah.
Maybe he does, you know, but you as a viewer wonder that. And that throws you off, and that immediately makes you more susceptible to, like, not jump scares, but like those jarring moments. And there's a couple really good scares in that story specifically, and even throughout the other two. But
I feel like that was the one that was the most...
Yeah.
Like, if the other two had carved out their own space quite as well as that one did, it would have been really noteworthy. Instead, it was just like the second two stories were just kind of creepy and interesting. I mean, it was continually well shot and well acted, and Martin Freeman has a lot to do in this movie, and we've talked about him before. I just love Martin Freeman. I think he's so great.
He's so good.
And he can turn on the comic side or the creepy side. He's good in both sort of roles. And the lead guy, Andy Nyman, I believe is the actor who also co-wrote and co-directed the movie with Jeremy Dyson. Anyway, Jeremy Dyson and Andy Nyman wrote the play that this movie was based on. And I didn't realize
There's a
that.
play?
Yeah, apparently it was a long-running play. By the way, I did find this portmanteau films from one company called Amicus that made them in the 60s and the 70s. And it says, these films typically feature 4 or sometimes 5 short horror stories linked by an overarching plot featuring a narrator and those listening to his story. There's one called Dr. Terror's House of Horrors, Torture Garden, The House That Dripped Blood, and Tales from the Crypt, which I mentioned.
Very cool.
So,
Wow.
But I will say that, this could have been helped a lot if the second story and the third story had reached a culmination that felt quite as unsettling. Because what happens in that first story, like his ultimate predicament in the haunting, is horrifying.
Yeah.
You don't even really understand how he, like, I don't want to give too much away about the movie, but these people are telling about what happened to them, so you know they all survive what they encounter. But a couple of those don't seem to end in a survival type situation for the character. So
it does something with space that I'd never seen. Like the idea that, like, you know how things change in an environment, but they're so far away from each other. I've never seen something be that far away. So like something's like down the hall. You go down the hall, and then the other thing is all the way down the hall. Mm-hmm. I've never seen
like where you came from.
Where you came
so
from
much further.
changes so much further. Because a lot of the times in horror films, especially like ones that are kind of trying to imitate the Conjuring world, is like they'll have like something shift, like a doll is on the ground now, and then you pick up the doll, and that's right next to you. But there's something about traveling to get there
to it,
that makes it so much scarier.
well, because you gotta get, if you were that guy, each step you take is another triumph of your courage, you know? So you have to get all the way down the hall, and then you're down at this end, and then something happens behind you. And at that point, you're just, if you've ever been in a situation where you're scared and you have to keep checking shit out, you know?
Right.
Like you're the grown-up, you do have that feeling of like, oh, God, just but you still have to do it. Like you still have to, go out and check to make sure a door is locked or whatever. So no, I think that that story in particular.
Yeah.
Anytime you're in a place late at night, and I think that's the remoteness of that, the loneliness of it, plus the idea that it's an abandoned.
Yeah, what was
asylum for women or something? There was some weird,
hospital or something. Yeah,
it's cool.
I mean, it's a bit of a cliche, but since these stories are meant to be almost like ghost stories that someone's telling to you,
I dig the whole like wraparound of these little stories in terms of like our lead actor, our narrator, our storyteller is like all about debunking things, and like the idea that he had an idol. That the story is that he has this idol that like basically went missing himself, and he ends up contacting him and
the narrator / he's a bit like a documentarian that we're following around. His story is interesting. You're right,
and the idea that like there were 3 stories he was never able to like solve or debunk or explain. So that's like a cool jumping off point to go into some pretty crazy stories, and they are they're pretty out there. But yeah, I don't know. I don't want to talk too much about it because it's to probably kind of spoil anything, but it's a pretty clever movie. I mean, I was glad we finally got to see it. It's weird that I heard so many good things about it and just kind of like disappeared, and it finally came out on VOD. But I definitely would. It's a check it out or go ahead for me. I thought it was really good, and it's this kind of thing like Ronald was saying. Like I really liked it, and it is something that I could easily put on again and watch casually, and like. It's a movie I could go back to for sure.
Yeah, the quality level in general is very high.
Yeah.
And it's very neat and tidy.
Yeah.
Like, especially when you get around to the end of the wraparound, the way everything ties up is it's not to say that you want everything to be explained, but to the extent that you need to understand certain things to put the movie in sort of to encapsulate it, you end the movie definitely feeling like you have the information to recontextualize everything else. And I think that's just, I don't know, it's kind of what I was expecting because that's what they often do in these portmanteau films where the wraparound, you slowly realize that the wraparound it has its own story and is in fact maybe part of the story.
Sure.
But you almost need to start off with this aloof narrator who doesn't think he's part of the story.
Yeah.
Because you've seen that a million times, and that actually can be kind of a sign of a weak movie if your protagonist doesn't have a real role to play. Yeah. And so as that grows in the movie, I think you start to feel the general sense that nothing is safe in this world.
At the end, I was like, am I a fool?
Yeah.
This is I just not noticed all these hints. That was cool, man.
Yeah, so that was fun. So Ghost Stories, where is that right now? I know that we saw it.
I think I haven't seen it listed. I tried to find it in theaters around me within like 30, 40 miles, and there's nothing. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it looks like it's just VOD for now. Hopefully it gets on like a platform like Netflix so people can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's one other movie that we've all seen that I think we should talk about, and it actually relates to the very Rickrollable, mustachioed face of Henry Cavill. I know we've all seen it. What do you guys think of Mission Impossible Fallout?
Can I say that I'm glad that we're talking about it after some weeks have passed? I know that sounds
sure, no,
but I think what it is too is like some perspective as things are coming out, just how impactful it still is.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Steve.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. I was sitting in the theater and I had a very distinct thought about this movie as I'm watching it.
Kroobs!
Yes. First thought was Kroobs. Second thought was
Tom Kroobs.
Have these movies gotten to a point where I'm looking forward to them more than the James Bond movies?
Easily.
Yes.
Yeah.
That happened like two movies ago.
Sometimes you want to give it the benefit of the doubt. Like I think
sure.
This was a harder one because, Tom Cruise is a little older. He gets a little older. He's still very
as
mobile.
One does.
Yeah.
He still runs like T-1000.
Have you seen those tweets about like how he's the same age as Wilford Brimley was in Cocoon?
In Mission Impossible
That
6,
crazy.
He's only 4 years younger than Alec Baldwin in real life.
Wow.
I mean, and it's like Alec Baldwin doesn't look bad for his age.
No, not at all.
No. You're right.
He's a handsome middle-aged grown-up.
He's an adult to Tom Cruise in that movie. Like when Alec Baldwin's talking to Tom Cruise, I feel like a parent is talking to a child.
He's also superior.
Yeah,
but still, I mean, just
and it's so great that they cast him
have different presence
in that role
man.
Because of that skill at delivering line, and then
even if they were talking in real life, I'm saying
I know
the two of them talking to each other, you'd be like, this guy has a lot more life lived than Tom Cruise, even though he's Tom Cruise. But man, I loved that fucking movie.
It's great.
It's really well
One
done.
of my favorite movies of the year.
Yeah,
and I went back and I missed a little bit of it at the first time I saw it, and I was worried that it was like affecting my feelings about it.
Yeah.
But I was able to go back and see it again, and I fucking love that movie.
Every action scene in it is the best action scene I've ever seen.
Yeah.
In any other movie,
Right.
like standalone, that makes that movie immediately better.
And I mean, I'm putting it in that category with movies like Fury Road,
Sure.
where you just say, okay, I was watching it and getting increasingly both mentally processing, oh wow, these are actual stunt people, and these are actual vehicles, and they did as much as they could physically, and that takes such orchestration and ingenuity, but also buying into, on both, it just satisfies you in both categories of like, wow, the craft of the filmmaking and the action set piece, the way it's orchestrated and the stunts and everything, that's beautiful. But you're also going, holy shit, oh, and like ducking down. And I was literally like leaning forward in Mission Impossible, that third act. I was practically levitating above my seat. I was, I don't remember a time when I've been that engaged and thrilled to be manipulated like that. Like I was going like, I was practically giggling. It made me so happy. And they would cut to another part and they were stretching it out for sure, but they're cross-cutting all these things that are happening at one time. So they don't cheat.
There's 3 climaxes.
They don't cheat quite as much as they make it seem like they are, but they still, what is that, a 30, 35-minute sequence? That is
really
15 minutes of timer, you know? But each character has a little triumph or a plot line.
Definitely.
I thought that was really deftly handled.
I like that Tom Cruise in this movie, in the context of this movie, is kind of a fuck up. Kind of like he's a rogue agent. Like they don't know what he's gonna do. They kind of don't think that they know he's good at his job, obviously, right? But there's like this level of unpredictability that is faked in a lot of movies, that they try to convey in a lot of movies, that I feel with him.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, I don't know what he's gonna do. I don't know who he's gonna. I don't know what the fuck he's gonna do. And there's
Wild card.
Yeah, he feels very much like a wild card.
You're right.
The last act felt like a video game in the way that like you need all these parts to work at the same time, and people are working together. And there's something
I like that Ving Rhames' contract has something in it that's
Ving Rhames.
like Ving Rhames does not want to walk fast.
No.
In this movie, he doesn't want a scene that requires him to move from one side of the room to the other. Something where he's cutting wires and just like consoling somebody would be great. But no, they give everybody something to do in that climax. It's always a personal thing. These villains are always about Ethan Hunt. But this movie does a great job of making that really front and center in the story. Chris McQuarrie, who wrote and directed this and has written some great films and has directed some fine films, I mean, I think this puts him up there amongst the greats. You know, he made that Jack Reacher movie that we all enjoyed too. The guy has a knack for action and making these character beats through action really have weight. And I also think there is, as you said, Ronald, the phenomenon of Tom Cruise can't be overestimated in terms of what it means to this. And Steve had pointed out a few times that this is sort of the Tom Cruise franchise.
Oh, for sure.
I think one thing about Mission Impossible that I really love, and this is like Mission Impossible is like an homage to all of like a lot of different types of movies, right? Like the action movies like Terminator. There's a lot of martial arts in it, which is very like not American. There's like that kind of boom that kind of happened in, the 70s and 80s and 90s. Those things happened in order for this movie to happen, because who's just going to be kicking and punching without some kicks and some karate kicks and punches and stuff like that? It's literally changed the way that people fight in movies. I don't know, if you're into that kind of stuff, but it makes it more palatable when you see it in Mission Impossible. Tom Cruise flipping somebody over his back, doing like martial arts moves, and Henry Cavill just being a beast. We need to see more. I like brute strength in a movie, and I think that we don't get that a lot. We don't get a lot of like
that fight scene in the bathroom. There was a lot of throat damage. Did you notice
a
how
lot
many
of that, man.
choke like punches and like, hooked by a pipe? And we're definitely going to have to do a little bit of a spoiler section with this movie, because there's certain things that are worth talking about that I don't think we can reveal. But I think anyone listening at this point knows, if this is the movie you wanted to see a couple weeks ago already, and if not, you've probably heard from people that it's really great. So I feel like people know where they stand with this type of movie. But I would say that if you're not an action movie person,
get out of there.
I think you still could enjoy this movie.
You think so?
I think you could enjoy it.
I totally agree with you.
I think it's just that well done. I mean, there's just so much of an attempt to make it excellent. I mean, it matters to Tom Cruise. It matters to the studio. I mean, I think Chris McQuarrie did not want to mess around and make a halfway there movie. The cast, everybody in it comes ready to do this thing, and it's just like, I mean, I wondered if Henry Cavill was at different points throughout the movie going, shit, Tom Cruise is like, what, 10, 15 years older than him? It must up the ante for all the other actors who are the physicality. And it made me wonder, is that something they look for when they want to bring someone in for these movies? Do they find someone who's daring and fearless? Because there were some stunts.
Absolutely.
There were some moments that looked like Henry Cavill was doing some pretty daring stunt work in this, too.
There's a really good interview that the Cavill, Rebecca Ferguson, and Tom Cruise are on the Graham Norton show, and that's something he says. Like Tom Cruise says, is that like we're trying to bring people into these movies that want to do stunts, that want to make it look real, and that want to entertain people that are paying to see your movie. And that's fucking amazing. And like to see if you're down for that, like Rebecca Ferguson's amazing in this movie.
She's fantastic.
She's amazing. Like she was great in Rogue Nation. I mean, arguably better in this film.
Yes.
But I think just
her first big fight scene in Rogue Nation might still be better than anything she got to do in this movie.
Sure.
But she was such a badass character, and someone was asking if Tom Cruise left the franchise, who could step in? And I was thinking, like, well, haven't they kind of already... Isn't she sort of already on the bench as, like, the next big badass? Especially if she's already... I mean, no one's Tom Cruise. That's the weird thing, is replacing him is... It's weird. It's a weird thing to want to do. But I mean, saying at some point if he wants to stop, but when do you picture him wanting to stop?
He's not stopping.
He's going to be doing 10 or 12 of these things. And I read somewhere, this is kind of to your point, Steve. I love this. That when they are working on these movies, they pre-visualize the stunts and the action sequences a lot. And they're always coming to... We joke about how it's like Tom Cruise wants to hang off the side of a spaceship or he wants to jump across a canyon. That is kind of how they approach these movies. It's like, what can we do? And I read where, I think it was Christopher McQuarrie said that when they're in that stage, if they suggest something that sounds really cool, and it's like, what if we do this crazy stunt, and then this rolls down the thing and it blows up? Tom Cruise's first question is always, but how can we make people see that it's me? Like, let's work on that stunt, but how are you going to see that it's me? Where are you going to put the camera? How are we going to work it out? It's part of the concept for him is that it's not just the ego. I'm sure there is a lot of ego with this guy.
Yeah, for sure.
But on another level, he knows that charge we get when we can tell. Because we've seen a lot of digital shit that looks pretty good.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look as good as Tom Cruise hanging on the bottom of a fucking helicopter and sliding down that rope. Last year, we were talking about Mummy not being that great or Jack Reacher 2 kind of flopping. I think American Made, which was kind of a non-starter. It was a decent movie, but a non-starter.
Yeah, I like that one.
This movie to me says now that what that thing is that he does, it's so alive and well, and it's weird that this series might be the only place where that is like safe. I came out of Mission Impossible Fallout saying other movie makers or popcorn filmmakers in general are not trying this hard. Period. No. And I loved Infinity War. I loved Solo. There's a lot of movies that I love where they're fun, but I don't get that sense when I come out of it of just buzzing of like, what were those maniacs doing?
You know that crazy jump that he did that they talk about constantly?
The Halo jump?
That wasn't what impressed me. It was the scene, the footage when he was running. To me...
It's real.
Yeah.
There's somebody running in front of him, jumping out with him.
Yeah.
Have you seen the behind the scenes footage of that jump? It will blow your mind.
I don't know why that got to me so much. Because what it was they're like, okay, this isn't a soundstage. He's running on top of a building. Right. Yeah. That was a close, like mid shot. Then when it zooms out and you see that top view of him running, and then it zooms into his face, and they do it again and it's further out.
Yeah.
Like, who else besides Tom Cruise would run basically the equivalent of a football field to do this jump, man? It was so seamless. They did it in a way that just felt very like, all the shots that we're kind of talking about were shot like that. They're like medium shots so you see what he's doing, goes out, goes back in, and then it's like a big shot where you're like, this is the scale of all this stuff in relation to what he's about to do. It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
You should try to find some of that.
I'll look it up, man.
Like the helicopter stuff is really impressive, and like the bathroom scene. But the Halo jump is really cool because like that. I'm talking about the high altitude, low oxygen jump at the beginning when him and Henry Cavill jump out. Like it's really cool because like there's literally a camera guy in the plane that's shooting everything when they're in the plane, and there's a guy that's jumping in front of Tom Cruise. And like basically like if you notice the movie and if you see it again, you'll see it really quickly. Like when they jump out, you can see like the focus pull come in and out, and like when he gets in order to pull him into focus, like he had to be like within like 3 inches of the camera, like the guy jumping below him. So Tom Cruise is like literally drifting in and out of focus intentionally.
Yeah.
To make it so that you're seeing that like there's no cuts, quote unquote, but you're seeing like his face come into. It's not like his face
really like this
in a mask or in like a wind machine or whatever. Man,
it's
beast,
amazing.
Man. It's amazing.
People gonna miss the fuck out of him when he.
I don't. Yeah,
when he
you're
stops
so right.
acting.
Is he gonna die doing a stunt?
Man, look.
Maybe.
At this point, I don't know, man. He keeps upping the ante to the point where I'm like, come on, man. Like,
I mean, he's going to be 70.
Passing it on to...
Right. They better write the movie so that whatever scene he dies in, we've got a story that works.
Right.
So, yeah, we obviously think if you like action, if you like big, if you like, globe-trotting, if you like Simon Pegg, if you like Ving Rhames, this is the movie for you this summer.
For all the takes that there are about this franchise, the one that really I feel like resonates with me after seeing this 6th installment, I think there's a really strong argument to be made that it's possibly like one of if not the best franchises in movie going right now.
Quietly, it doesn't feel tired at this point. I did see it on a giant IMAX screen with a really happy crowd, and I mean it was one of the best movie going experiences I've had in a long time.
It's good, man.
Same here, man.
So, can we go into a few spoilers just to talk a little bit about where this movie goes?
Sure.
So, if you're listening, jump off. Take a halo jump out of this podcast. So, I just want to talk about Henry Cavill's character's development in this movie, and that at the end of this movie, he has become like... You know how in the Bond movies... Usually the main bad guy is sort of not a physical bad guy. He dies, like there's an explosion that takes him out.
Yep.
And Bond's last fight is usually with the henchman.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, man, they made such a great Bond henchman out of Henry Cavill. His physicality, the fact that half his face is burned off and he's just mad as hell at Ethan Hunt and just wants, like, you feel the anger.
Yeah.
That last fight would have been great no matter who they got, but I feel like Henry Cavill, I really feel like you have to appreciate how much that character, he's a good foil for Ethan Hunt, and he's kind of played for a fool in the middle of the movie, and then at the end, it's just brute force.
Yeah.
I loved that last fight. I loved how they kept coming back, and I loved that in the end, the only way to kill him was to hook a helicopter to his fucking face.
Drag him off the fucking mountain.
Knock him off the cliff. And it's like, they even showed us in the shot of him tumbling down, like, his head hits the rock and kind of explodes. Like, no, don't worry, he's not climbing back up. Yeah.
One of the cool things, like, Christopher McQuarrie has, like, been doing tons of press and podcasts. Like, he's on a ton of lists that I listen to. And one of the things he keeps talking about with Henry Cavill's character and even just like the bigger villain of this film, was that his big goal with this movie was to have a physically imposing force for Ethan Hunt. Like in most of the other films, it's always, more often than not, it's been more of an intellectual game of a dance of, who's going to outsmart the other.
Like someone with a lot of goons, but you don't feel like
those guys are there.
Yeah.
But like that's not who you're seeing in the last 5 minutes of the movie or 10 minutes of the movie, whatever. So
that's cool.
It's really cool that like that was like a thought out thing that like this is not normally what happens. He's usually gone a little earlier, whatever.
Yeah.
But this is the guy in this movie. There's still another villain looming. With the Rebecca Ferguson has her scene with another villain. Awesome fucking scene.
A great scene.
And so you get these two massive top level boss fight scenes happening, edited together so well, and you have this like both physical, both intellectual people. But for Ethan, it's like it's a force, it's a physical force. In other Mission Impossible movies, he really hasn't really been up against.
Yeah,
and it's just really fucking cool.
And it doesn't end, man. It starts out as a helicopter chase that turns into a crashed helicopter roll battle that turns into fisticuffs.
Henry Cavill's reaction to Tom Cruise getting
I love the fury on his face.
What?
He goes from being irritated to just being furious.
He's like, what's going on? This is too far. I'm gonna kill him now.
Yeah.
It's cool to see a good actor like Henry around Tom Cruise and see how they work off of each other.
Yeah.
Man, this was what I've always wanted to see Henry Cavill in, just physicality, and because I knew he was a big guy, but seeing him in relation to Tom Cruise. And look, I know Tom Cruise isn't a tall dude, but Henry is a fucking
big guy.
massive dude. Which makes me think that they kind of made him look smaller in the, like, DC stuff.
Well, Affleck's kind of jacked.
He's big.
Yeah, he's a big dude, but like he's around everybody else.
was big.
Is the robot dude big? Is he a big dude?
Ray something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just I did not know he was that big.
Well,
of a
Tom
dude.
Cruise is little, so that's another thing.
I can't wait to see this movie again.
No, I want to see it again too.
I saw it in Dolby
I want to see
first, and then I saw it at AMC Prime, which I never watched it in before, which is pretty awesome showing. I don't really know what the difference is. I need to research that.
Yeah,
But yeah, that Rebecca Ferguson fight with what's the actor who played
Sean Harris.
Sean Harris, so good.
Yeah.
Like he's got so much more to do in this too than the last one. He was good in the last one, but I feel like in this,
Rogue Nation.
and the fact that he survives, I love that he's turning into kind of a
And there's like a sequel, a direct sequel to 5. Like this is the first time they've really done that.
But you know, I was going into this worrying about Benji, and I think they knew. They knew they had us worried about Benji. That scene,
I watched that. I was like, oh, John's probably sweating bullets right now.
They did such a good job, though, of making it so that if he had died, it would have been a satisfying death.
Yes.
Because even while he's dying, he did a couple things that contributed to the fight.
Yeah.
That's always a tip-off that a character's not going to die,
Yeah.
is if it feels like an afterthought kind of death or like a death they didn't spend much time on. But that would have felt like an earned final act. Well,
Totally.
we saved the world, but we lost Benji. That would have been the kind of note this movie could have ended on. But when you see how it ended, I don't think they were really interested in. I mean, I think for the foreseeable future, they like that they have this team of people they can bring in and bring back for a movie. You know, Ving Rhames has been nothing more than a cameo for a couple of these, but he had a lot to do in this.
I do like his Ethan.
Oh no, I love him.
That's something about him
I've
doing that
got
all the
no
time
problems
that
with Ving
I
Rhames.
can love
I
about
just think
him.
he's funny that he's such
He finally had a moment in this movie.
He did, man.
A couple moments.
And, when he got emotional,
Yeah.
I got kind of emotional. I was like, man, he really does love these dudes.
No, he does. I was ready to believe that they would have killed him at the beginning. Like when he got shot, I was like, well,
pretty sure he was good.
Because I felt like this was the movie. You know, they did with the trailer make me think that this was the movie where Ethan Hunt was going to lose everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that was clever, and I'm glad they didn't go that direction with the team, and I'm glad especially they didn't kill off the wife, the ex-wife, because I think that the way they resolved that storyline in this, it feels like they put it to bed.
Yeah.
So the next movie doesn't have to be about him trying to divide his time and look after her.
Yep.
Thank God.
She's with nice old prematurely ancient-looking Wes Bentley.
Yeah.
But I thought that was good. Like I thought that
Did he seem a little pushy?
I liked
Something about his
I liked
energy
that
was
they gave
so-
him that beat at the end where he's like Doc or whatever.
Yeah.
But he is just like he's just there to seem like impossibly nice. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And good, so
He
that
was
you
too
see
nice.
that her life is good.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, stay. You can. We'll take you. It's like, come on, man.
I was giving out back rubs in a minute. Come on over here. I'll rub you down.
at it.
No, but
I like that,
But
man.
the way that ending had everybody he cared about in that same play, like as far as a villain's plan, I thought that was a really clever way to go.
Yeah.
And I do think the ticking clock, as cliche as it is, they milked it for everything it was worth. And I was ready to believe Benji could have died. I was ready to believe one of the bombs might go off, or I didn't know what was going to happen. But in the end, it seems apparent. Of course, they weren't going to set off a nuke.
You know what scene I love? It doesn't get a lot of attention. Is when he is meeting with the White Widow, and he sees like what their plan is, like to break Lane out. I love when he says, "What's the plan?" And instead of having like the exposition of them showing the plan, they actually like shot a full section of the movie where they're showing the plan.
That felt like it went dark.
It would have.
I was
it
like,
felt like
oh.
it was happening.
I was like,
And
oh my God.
fuck, he just shot a guy
Yeah.
in the face. And then he snaps out of it. I'm like, oh my God. But the reason that's so good though is because I feel like this one, more than most of the other Mission films, like it really humanizes Ethan Hunt a lot more.
Oh, yeah.
Like you see a lot more of the emotional, the mental toll, the anguish of like what's been balanced over these 6 movies and like what's been lost, what's been sacrificed. Maybe not to a physical like death or anything like that, but just like your peace of mind, your sanity, like the fact that when he's picturing this happening, the first like the thing that snaps him out of it is taking somebody's life.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, that's not what he's gonna do, and that's what they call him out for in the next scene. We're like, oh, you're against killing cops, and he's like, well, I've killed women and children with smallpox or whatever, you know, like as the character.
I'm smiling because I love how you said it, Ronald. He's so rogue that everybody in this movie is like, "What the hell is this guy doing?" Yeah, like what's he doing? He's knocking it into the. You didn't tell us this was your plan. I mean, I love that.
Yes.
I mean, it's like you just there's these unseen scenes of him forming the plan that is actually in place, you know. But I love that it's just even him going through that particular grading was part of the plan.
Yeah.
Like, and that was what a great moment.
When he messed that mission up, when they were trying to get the little ball, and he really fucked it up, I was like, man, I like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He like really screwed up. They're
screwed
like,
up.
Nah, and they kept saying it over and over again. They're like,
it's because you did this.
Because you did it. Because you messed it up. Because they're gonna die. They're gonna die because of you.
What's great about that is that they did play that next scene where they have the guy in the hospital room. You know, I was like, man, this is dark. 10 minutes into the movie, and they've already set off 3 nukes. And I was willing to believe it. The same way I was when...
You know what that's called?
I thought
you got.
Yeah. Well, what I love about that, though, was who knew that Wolf Blitzer was going to have my favorite line of the summer. When he comes in and says, did we get it?
Yeah.
Oh my God! I was laughing and crying and jumping out of my seat. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely.
Like when I started to feel it, that was what was happening when the wall fell down and Tom was just sitting in the seat, or Ethan sitting in the seat, sitting in the chair, looking at the guy, and the guy's like. And then I was thinking, I think I told one of you this, that I was thinking, oh wait, we haven't had the titles yet.
Yeah.
Because I've been waiting for that moment when dun dun dun. They always give you a big moment.
That was so elaborate.
That was so satisfying. That was just joyous.
Yeah, this is a place that has like an infinite amount of money. So like I guess it makes sense that they would do whatever they could to save them. But that I never would have ever imagined. A lot of the gags
How long has the guy been asleep? What did he say? You've been asleep for
2 weeks.
Oh my God.
Well, it was 2 weeks, and it was like an hour.
Yeah, right.
And like Benji's the one that ran him off the road.
Yeah.
And in an hour, they set that up, and he got the Wolf Blitzer outfit.
Yeah. So good, man. So good.
How do we get a hold of one of those laptops that print the face masks?
Oh, I need
We need one of them.
I mean, because some of those gags I've seen before, like the hanging gag that was happening, not a gag, that scene that was happening, I've seen that in like movies before, but that first scene, I promise you, I've never seen anything like it before. Not anything done that well.
Well, because you were ready to believe this was going to be the mad Ethan Hunt movie where he's furious, you know, and he's under the gun. But like,
oh man, all those people dying. I was like, oh God.
Yeah.
You know something weird? I want to just one of the last things I want to say, and this is more of like if you haven't seen it already, hopefully we didn't spoil too much. I should have said this a little earlier.
Yeah.
Maybe you can do some magic, John. Please just go see the movie. Like one thing I will say, it was number 1 2 weekends in a row. Hasn't, I don't think, opened in China yet, where he usually does really well with these films. But like, it's super important to see this kind of movie in a theater with the biggest screen and the best sound you can, so that they can keep making them. And I mean, they will because it's successful. It blows my mind though that this movie opens to like $56 or $60 million, whatever it was. Like, I don't understand that. Like, I don't get it. Like, and I think it's just because this franchise doesn't have like the young demo that a lot of other franchises have. And like kids aren't going to the movies, teenagers aren't going to see Mission Impossible. Like they're going to see the Fast and Furious movies or the Marvel films, and I get it. Yeah. But I mean, this movie is like top-notch action entertainment, just movie going in a theater. Like, it's like John said earlier, it's like one of the best experiences I've had in the theater recently that I can remember. Where like the entire crowd was in it. Even when I resaw, there was like 10 people in the theater, and it was still a great watch with 10 people because it just feels so amazing to see a movie that's that entertaining on a big screen. Yeah. So I mean, while it's doing really well and it's gonna end its run probably over $500 million, who knows? I hope it does really well. I hope they keep making these movies. But I mean, you know, go see it again if you already saw it. You know, I was talking to my wife about this on the way when we went on vacation last week, and like it blows my mind that like this isn't $100 million franchise like opening weekend kind of stuff. Yeah. You know. Or 100 or 75 or 80, anything like that.
No, I know what you're saying. That like these other movies come out, they're disappointments if they don't make 100 million in their opening weekend, and this movie's not in that category. And
this one had the biggest opening of the franchise, not adjusted for inflation.
Yeah.
In its 6th film,
right?
Which is awesome. But like to barely be at 60 million, like that's so weird to me.
It is weird.
Like I don't know. I can't get my head around it, and I get the logics of the inner workings of why it's happening.
Do you think there's any? Like, just some people are just not excited about Tom Cruise. I mean, is there? Because I do think younger people.
I think people are letting go of that
are more likely to think of him as kind of a creep who has. I mean, and I sometimes debate whether because I remember when that Scientology documentary came out, we were like, man, this creeps you out about Tom Cruise. How misinformed could he be about what's actually going on in that organization? Sure. Or do they really keep him insulated from the truth of their shadiest tactics? So. If they do, then he's kind of a dupe in a way. By them, but it's almost to me that exists in a separate zone than his movie career. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just waiting to hear that headline that makes me feel like okay, I can't support this guy anymore. Am I just being selfish because I love these movies?
I don't know, but I agree with you. I think we both are.
Yeah, I think I'm blinded right now by how good that movie is. Yeah. But it's scandal proof.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For now.
But I will say that, like, I think there's something about, I think the way movies are marketed to people are very different. Like, so somebody that's going to see like a Mission Impossible, right? They aren't going to be hit 20, 30 times with some sort of social media something.
You said they are not?
They are not.
Okay.
Whereas somebody that's like in the age range of somebody that's watching a Marvel movie will probably be hit maybe 30 times a week.
Sure.
With something like, hey.
I totally get it. And you're right.
You'll go to IMDb, the
banner,
the thing shifts.
From what I hear, Kevin Feige is going door to door and punching people in the nuts.
At this point, yeah, he's like, he's calling people like, hey, have you seen this movie? See it, please.
Hey, where's Ronald? I want to have lunch with him.
I think there's something to be said about the way that things are being marketed to people, and it affects the way you go see something.
It's very similar to the Bond franchise, like where I feel like those movies open big because it's got this storied history, it's long running franchise. But even those films, those openings aren't monster openings like the other franchises that we're talking about. So I guess it's in that same conversation. But from what you mentioned earlier, like I do believe that it's kind of surpassed the Bond films.
Oh yeah,
it's kind of like this awesome mashup of a Bond of what are now Bond movies and like the Fast and the Furious stuff.
Yeah,
where like things continue to escalate.
Right,
but they're escalating with real stunts and practical effects and like really well shot and really composed cinematography that isn't happening in Fast and the Furious
at all, man.
Or Bond. I mean, Bond. Some of the Bond stuff is gorgeous and looks great, but I just feel like there's something happening with this franchise that's like really special, and like I feel like it's enabling some people to kind of get past the Tom Cruise-ness of it all. But it is weird that like this is like his bread and butter now.
Yeah. Well, Tom Cruise, the real man, he's the creepy Scientologist with all the strange romantic history that when you hear the more you hear about it, the more it unsettles you.
Yeah,
Krubs. That's the movie star. That's the guy who plays Ethan Hunt.
Yeah.
That's the guy who doesn't have any inner life that I want to think about. He just shows up in a t-shirt and a leather jacket.
And let me ask you a
question.
question.
Runs on top of a building.
Would you have wanted to see a Tom Cruise Iron Man?
I actually think about
it
that all
constantly.
the time because I think Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man are Robert Downey Jr. in that role is about as good as you can get.
Right.
However, would the movie have been different? Because that's what I was thinking when I saw Mission Impossible. I was thinking I would love to see a Star Wars movie, a Marvel movie, any kind of action movie in that vein that had this kind of attention to the action and the stunts. And it did make me think: would the Iron Man franchise be a stunt oriented, like would he be like, no, I want an actual metal suit that's got jets on it?
I'm gonna jump across.
No, he would be like, I can't do this standing. I mean, honestly, can you picture him wanting to do the green screen where it's just his face? And maybe he would
make this physical.
but yeah, a question I have that's kind of related to that is like, or just like the what ifs. Do you want to see the next Mission Impossible film with the same team, or do you think they should keep to the tradition of trying out new directors? Because this is 2 in a row for Christopher McQuarrie, and he's made 2 great ones. Has this mutated into the Christopher McQuarrie, Tom Cruise, American James Bond franchise, or is it still the franchise that tries out different directors and makes that its kind of lifeblood?
I say go back to the well, man. Like this, if this is any indication of what they can do, especially if the next one takes on a different tone. Like, you know what I would really love? For as big as these movies are, I kind of want to see small scale.
I thought you were going to say you wanted to Ragnarok it.
I want to Ragnarok every movie. But there's something really
Tessa
cool.
Thompson would be good in a Mission Impossible movie.
I would
the
watch
smaller
that.
one that you're talking about is called Mission Impossible, the first one.
Yeah.
The Brian
But
De
I'm
Palma
just
film.
saying, like, in this world that they've created in these last 2, I would like to see something that has some small scale stuff to it, some small scale implications.
Fallout was to the max.
Yeah.
It almost seems like maybe next one, maybe don't bring in the team, or maybe have it be just him and Ilsa or something like that. No, I could see that being cool.
Him doing like maybe if like there was a situation where like he was stripped again of whatever his credentials are, and he had to kind of start doing these like smaller scale missions again.
Yeah.
The ones that he used to do when he had first started. I think that'd be so cool, man.
I would also like to see them do one movie though where everything's fine. Like No, I don't mean where the story's not interesting. I just mean where there's no, he's rogue, we're disavowing this, there's changes up top. I mean, I think that's part of the story, too, is that these movies always have that element of, at this point, there's no one who can support you in this. And it is interesting that they traded out Alec Baldwin for Angela Bassett. I thought that was an interesting interesting trade. You can see how she will occupy very much the same grown-up spot in the next movie. Yeah. And she was great. I thought she was a nice addition.
On the FaceTime scared me. I'm like, I wouldn't want my boss FaceTiming me and yelling at me through it.
What a payday for her and Baldwin, though.
I know.
They're in like 3 scenes.
Yeah.
And she's on one of them over a phone.
Yeah.
FaceTime.
Do you know what the most far-fetched thing in the whole movie is?
What?
That Alec Baldwin was able to beat up Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seriously. It bothered me a little bit.
Actually, it was strange. If you listen closely, you could hear him saying, karate chop, like when he was hitting him and stuff. No, but that was a moment where I was like, okay, this whole scene is about how Henry Cavill's character, that was the joke's on you scene for him, you know? So it's like, it was humiliation on top of humiliation, but that was one too many for me. I was like, really? Alec Baldwin?
Alec Baldwin.
You know, like...
Hey, they gave him a moment.
Yeah, I'm glad they did. I'm actually glad he got to kick some butt. I'm just saying it was strange that the rest of the movie, the whole point is Henry Cavill is a walking tank, and I don't think of Alec Baldwin as like a beefy guy. But he had some training. He knew where to hit him.
a couple punches, but then like dominating, like he's like...
He was like, ow, ooh, ow, stop that, Alec Baldwin.
Yikes! But yeah, definitely see the movie.
We'll see, man.
So do you want McQuarrie back?
I mean, I would not be opposed to him coming back. I have a feeling he won't.
Yeah.
I feel like he's going to still be involved with it, but I think that there's something to be said for like the fact that they've worked together like 9 times on whether it's writing, producing, directing. Like him and Cruise have a thing, and they know how to work with one another. Tom Cruise has like final cut on all of his movies. Like this works well.
Yeah,
you know, and so I would not be surprised, and I'd be totally cool with it if he did. But I mean, he's made some comments where I feel like he doesn't want to do another one. But I mean. But that's cool though because he could still be involved with it. He could still write it.
Didn't he do script work before he directed too? Didn't he work on 4? Or...
He did script work on Ghost Protocol.
Okay, so he came in, did some script doctoring, then directed Jack Reacher for Tom Cruise, then directed the next Mission Impossible movie.
Did some script writing on Edge of Tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So
great.
Valkyrie, Cruise has like it's his boy.
Yeah.
But I think it would be cool if it's not going to be him, if he's going to still be involved, maybe writing, producing, whatever. You know, they have this really great track record of finding great filmmakers that have a vision, that know how to shoot action, and understand that this is Tom Cruise's franchise, and whoever that is, I'm not sure, but
do you have anybody that comes to mind? I was trying to think of anybody, and I don't think of anybody that's at that level. I could think of some. Matt Reeves would be someone who it'd be interested to see what he would do going up to that level. I think we're going to see with his Batman movie what he can do with that kind of action-oriented franchise. And everything he says about that, by the way, I don't know if you've been reading the Matt Reeves quotes. Everything he says is right.
Yep.
Do you think we're going to get Gyllenhaal?
We might. We might.
Get.
Unless they really go younger, like they're saying.
But if it's supposed to be like, it would make sense that it would be Gyllenhaal, even if it's like a young.
He plays younger than Affleck already.
Though. Oh, for sure.
So there's something about if it's supposed to be that like first 10 or so years, I don't mind Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah,
he's so good, man. Like that would take care of just the acting part of that stuff.
What do you think of John Hamm? I know that the age thing is.
I fucking love John Hamm.
Don't you think John Hamm could be good?
Could be great.
Yeah.
I'd like. He has the voice. He has the presence.
Oh my god, his voice! I just pictured his jaw for the first time in that cowl.
In that, come on, man.
It moved.
It's a real chance. Like you taking a chance because.
Also, he would do the Bruce Wayne side of it really well. I mean, that's always yeah.
Oh,
supposedly he wants it. That's the thing that's interesting to me is I've heard that he's jockeyed for it, but you never know if those stories are true. I always wonder when you hear a story like that if that's a publicist floating some shit.
Yeah,
to try to make it happen.
Get some momentum. He has sarcasm down pat, man. Like he would be the best.
Yeah,
because I would love if like they lightened up Superman and Batman was the dick. He really needs to be.
Because he could be a funny dick. You're right.
Yeah, man. He's a real dickhead. Mm-hmm. I like Michael Keaton's Batman. Like when I think about kind of like. Playboy, kind of an asshole. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like that, man.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Oh, Batman.
Oh, Batman. Oh, Tom Cruise. Oh, James Gunn.
Oh, James.
We didn't even get to Movie Pass in this episode. It's a good thing.
We'll come back to it in a few weeks. I'm sure
because
it'll be
something's
different.
I'm
going
sure
to
Movie
change.
Pass will still exist. Yeah.
Maybe. Hopefully, it won't be a pile of rubble.
Well, I think that's
That's it,
about
man.
it.
Yeah.
It's a catch up.
We didn't say
catch up.
the number of this episode because I don't think any of us were exactly clear.
None of us have a clue.
It's 100 something.
It's 200 and something or another, and it's let's call it August episode number 1.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for
Yes,
listening.
guys.
Right?
What are we doing in our next episode? Steve?
Fall preview.
Because there's a lot of stuff coming out.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's what happens.
No,
yes.
yes, no. This is an extraordinary year.
There is, when we were doing our summer preview, it was like June, I think was the month that I was like, man, everything's coming out in June. I feel like November was the hard month for me with the fall preview.
November's hard as shit.
If what I just said creates suspense for you out there, you're going to love next episode of Movie Schmovie.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
You can find us on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, as it's now called.
It's true.
Spotify, Google Play,
Everything.
all this stuff, really. And if it's not there, tell us, because Ronald needs to get it on there.
We'll put it there.
He's gonna put it there.
And we're on Spotify, which is, I mean, you've
just
said
said
it.
that.
You've
Yeah.
said it, but it's a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
It's so
It's
tangible
huge.
now. You have no excuse. You have no
It's so tangible.
It's so tangible.
You can't touch it, but it's so tangible.
It's so tangible.
You can just,
Yeah.
if it,
Oh, yeah.
But so tune in a couple weeks for the fall movie preview. And in the meantime, check us out on any of those services. Check out some back episodes if you haven't caught them all up to date.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can leave a review or a rating or whatever the platform offers in terms of feedback, we'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
And as always, you've made our day. Thanks.
Bye.